Welcome to Home's Room. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin.
Welcome back to Home's Room. It's April, and I decided I'm going to start doing like a search, and when we have episodes that need filling, and I don't have any good ideas, because sometimes I don't have good ideas.
You always have good ideas, Quinn.
I want to research the month and be like, okay, what is this month and like known for? What is it like the month of? And this one is stress. So April is Stress Awareness Month. So we are going to do an episode about stress. And I am here with my co-host, as you heard. So what's up, buddy?
What up, homie? Very timely topic. Also one that I still don't have super great answers to. I just have one powerful suggestion when the time comes to give it. And I hope for the best. I just, I'm in a fun season of life with a very busy career and like 2 tiny young humans that I'm chasing after. You give me hope with your 2 older daughters that someday they will become self-reliant and the drama will just change to different things, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. Good luck with that. I told my my 7-year-old the other day, it's like, I'm going to duct tape you to the ceiling. And she turned around and looked at me dead in my soul and said, do you even have duct tape? So, like I said, it does get better, but it also doesn't necessarily get better. It just gets better in a different direction. So there's that. But I wanted to say, you are doing your thing. So let's shout out the pink labeled podcast you're a part of.
The Dead Parents Party podcast. Yes.
So let's see, I was hoping you were going to fill it in and I had to like keep hinting at it. But I think you're doing really good. And one of the things that I enjoy about it is that like you're finding your way and things. And might I just suggest, as a humble listener, that you got to call your like listeners, because you were like, I got to figure out what to call you on one of your last episodes. It's like party goers, and your guests are party guests. Like it's just, I was like, it's like low hanging fruit. And I yelled at my phone, and I was like, you know what? She can't hear that. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, why don't I just tell her the next time I talk to her? So there's that.
I really like that feedback. Thank you so much. It's my solo project that Matt was super supportive of me launching. I launched it many months after we started recording together, and that is low hanging fruit. Hindsight's 2020, Matt. Thank you. But yeah. At the Dead Parents Party podcast, we are rebelliously choosing optimism and positivity after really shitty things happen to us. And life's a party, even after both your parents are dead. So
yeah,
that is essentially the mission of that other podcast. But I'm just very happy that Matt still entertains and allows me to co-host and hang out with him once a week.
Yeah. And I get to hang out with you twice a week. Thank you very much. Cause I listen to the, DPPP, I believe is what it was dubbed. So, the episodes drop on Thursdays. So you can get like a double dose of Kaitlin. And I think it's funny that I said double dose, cause my instant thought was like Pepto-Bismol, cause it's pink. Not that your podcast is related to Pepto-Bismol, just the pink thing in my head made it funny. But I also thought that, you know, it's really cool that you have had on like people close to you, and it shows that you are immersed in a community of grievers and showing them support. So like, that's awesome. And listening to the most recent interview you did with your cousin, I was like, I didn't know where it was going to go. And I was like, I don't subscribe to like organized religion anymore. So like, I like that that's kind of the topic, but also like, is it going to be one of the, like, I didn't know what to expect, but I enjoyed it, and I learned some stuff about how deep rooted it can be from a firsthand perspective, not just like my own perspective. And I kind of come away with, she still has faith, but doesn't have, like, you're telling me, like, my favorite quote was, she said, "You're preaching this thing from the pulpit, but I'm reading a different thing in this book, and those don't line up." And I loved that, because that's how I felt, and that's why I stopped subscribing to organized religion, because these same people that are judging me sitting over here are doing the exact opposite of what this book says, and barely latching onto the words that this guy is like telling us. And I hear what he's saying, and I feel like I could emote and, contribute to that feeling that he's trying to give. But you guys are making this a really uncomfortable situation for me, and I can't do both. So I'm going to step away, because I can be me without you and still have faith. So deuces.
Yeah. So I had to give a little bit of backstory on one of my most recent podcast episodes. As we're recording this, it'll be a little bit further out as this airs, but I interviewed my younger cousin, Brienne. She's only about 2 years younger than me, but her dad and my father were brothers. So that's how we are related. And he was a missionary over in Germany. I just vaguely remember, getting holiday cards from them with like a German mailing address, and hearing secondhand information from my dad about what they were doing over in Germany. They were out in the mission field, and they were a very, very religious a very religious family. And I just randomly saw an Instagram story from her one day last year where she was like, this is the type of, these sex crimes are largely covered by the cult of the Southern Baptist Church. And just randomly out of left field, I got a random Instagram story that was totally out of pocket for her. I was like, and I immediately messaged her. I was like, you okay, cousin? Because about a year and a half before that, my sister and I traveled to go to be there for her wedding with her college sweetheart, the first guy that she ever dated. We sat there and watched my uncle take her purity ring off of her in front of Jesus in creation. The pastor was talking about how, Brienne was such a model Christian woman, that she had saved herself for marriage, and everybody was so proud of her. So for her to kind of go totally off book with that was a whole thing. But come to find out, this person that she was married to ended up being really emotionally abusive, maybe other forms of abuse. I don't know. It's not my place to know or tell. But she's now going through divorce and messy, messy shit that comes with that. So I was just very honored and privileged that she felt comfortable for that to be a platform or a space where she wanted to have that conversation and talk to me about it. Before and after we were recording, we had a little like sidebar family catch up of some family tea that I didn't know and some other things. But I just, I'm really proud of her that was one way that she wanted to embrace vulnerability. And another thing too, my podcast is called the Dead Parents Party Podcast, Matt, but first and foremost, I argue that your parents don't have to be dead for you to be a part of the Dead Parents Party. I have so many friends and grown adult friends that have gone no contact with really toxic family members, especially parents who are extremely narcissistic, emotionally abusive, financially abusive, all those other things. Your parents don't necessarily have to be dead for you to be a part of the Dead Parents Party. But I also want to kind of widen the lens of that. And, my cousin Brienne, she was grieving this life and this definition of normal that she had worked her ass off all throughout high school, college, early adulthood, living abroad in a different country. She checked all the boxes and she did everything that she was told from a very young age. This is how you are supposed to live your life. And it ended up being a completely toxic and abusive environment for her. And she had the kahunas and she had the bravery and the courage to leave that situation. So Matt is also a true homie by telling me that, hey, 11 minutes left of that interview, the audio from Brienne goes out completely. Didn't know that. So thank you, Matt, for being homie. Circling back to, that's why feedback from our listeners is so wonderful and important and needed. So let me step off my soapbox. Thank you for giving me a shout out, homie. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that I didn't catch this before we started recording, so this episode might be kind of choppy and we don't sound as smooth as normal, but somehow my echo cancellation got turned on, and when both of us are on echo cancellation, when you laugh or when I laugh, we like knock each other out, and I hate when that happens. Usually mine's not on. I don't know why it's on, so sorry about that if that's the case. Podcasting happens, as she just said, that things happen. So I'm just gonna ask for your forgiveness on that, but I did want to point out, last week when we recorded, we had a little like internet freeze. I'm hoping it doesn't happen this week. If it does, we kind of roll with it. And you were like, hopefully you don't hear this, and it's not a big deal, or you can just cut it out. And when I played it back, I did hear all of what happened. I kept going because I assumed you were just gonna like pop back in. I didn't know how the severity, so I just kept rolling with it. And you also kept rolling with it. You gave me a nice message to hear while I was like going to be editing, and then you placed an order and narrated the placing of the order. And I hate to tell you, but I'm leaving it, man, because it was so funny and such a like, I don't know what's happening. And then we came right back and kept going, and it was like the perfect thing. So I just wanted to say my God. And you said your phone's on airplane mode. I hope you can get this text message of this image that I'm getting ready to send you, because it is also connected to our fancy things. Our fancy things. And you said, you asked as that audio went out, how do you spell that? And I couldn't hear it, obviously. So I was like, well, I'll just send her the picture. And then I was like, no, wait, I'll do it on air because it will be even funnier. So I'm sending you a picture of that dessert that I was talking about.
Yeah. Okay, that looks like layered ham and meatloaf, homie. That does not look like, okay.
But it's a dessert. It doesn't, I don't know why. I don't know. It's got chocolate on top of it. I think she's being a little harsh, personally, insulting my childhood
what I'm looking at right now, it looks like it's layered ham cake with barbecue sauce on top of it.
Okay.
I'm also not in a good place with my appetite this evening, so maybe that's a lot to do with it. But okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to address that because I thought it was funny. But we're going to leave that, and it's going to be fun.
Oh, God.
We are, like I said, talking about stress this week. And I wanted to start off by saying, what is stress? I got the Google definition, and stress can be defined as state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. Stress is a natural human response. Also, I will say, for me, one of the things that stresses me out, I am dyslexic. I had trouble. I had a lot of trouble learning to read. I probably didn't read well until I was in like 6th or 7th grade. I barely was like on grade level up until then to read. So reading questions, reading notes, reading any of the things that I've read on this show, that is a moment of like fear for me, but I do it anyway because I'm not going to let the fear win. And if I stumble over words, I'm just going to go back and try it again, or I'm going to try and find my place. And if that bugs you or that has a problem, that's your issue, not mine, because I'm working my brain as hard as I can work my brain to get it to do things that it should do. If it were 100% on par with every other person's, it just isn't. And that doesn't make me any less than, that doesn't make me any whatever. But as me and my buddy had a conversation about before we jumped on, I had shame about that for a really long time. And I don't carry the shame about that anymore. So the stress of that is more I just want to get through it unless I'm concerned how people will perceive it. So there's that. But that is your definition of stress.
Let me just tell you as your co-host, I know that's not the first time that you've told me that you have dyslexia. That is the first time in a while that you've told me. And let me just tell you, there's nothing in our interviews, our conversations, or the way that we communicate with one another, whether it's emails, messages on our shared Google Doc or text message, that lends itself to making me believe that you actually have dyslexia. Like, I am not necessarily not believing you, but I think you do a really good job of either, compensating for it or whatever. Part of it maybe too is I also have an attention disorder myself. And I don't know if I just, extend grace to other humans, but I've sat back and watched other interviews that you've done that I was not a part of. And at no point in any of those did I ever sit back and be like, man, this host really has dyslexia.
Usually I could usually like handle it really well, but also it was a lot of work to get. And, I think a lot of the teachers that, did something for me and didn't allow, I shouldn't say didn't allow, but I didn't want to have a crutch. I didn't want to have an excuse. I grew up in that way. And this is actually something I want to bring up in this episode about stress, but I didn't grow up in a way that like I allowed myself to be the victim. And so when it came to like dyslexia, whenever they offered me a tool to try and make the thing easier, not to try and help me manage it, I turned it down, and they would get mad at me because they were like, it's going to take you longer to do it this way. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not going to gain anything by allowing this thing to take over for me where I would fail. We can figure out some other way to do it. And through all of that work and figuring out what does and what doesn't work and what situations help and don't help, I've gotten to the point where like, for the most part, it doesn't like show up in a way that people outside would know. But for me, it's like, oh, damn, I fucked that up. Oh man, that was a mess up because I know what I saw or what happened. And my job now, like my occupation now, is helping kids that also are in that same position. And I hope that they continue to have people help them, not, support them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could understand maybe some of your perspective a little bit better, but I also feel like I'm maybe a little bit at a loss to your experience because I was not diagnosed with ADHD until well into adulthood, which, looking back into childhood and especially into some of the behaviors that I did as a public school educated dingus, I had such a fixation on reading and such a fixation on books that I had to know how they ended, where I'd be in math class and I would have my like times tables worksheets in front of me on my desk, and I would be pretending to do my times tables worksheets, and I would literally have under my desk the book that I was fixated on in the moment open in my lap, having to, like, I had to know how it ended. I was like, I can't put this book down. I can't take a break from this storyline because I felt like almost a sense of panic of like, I will forget this, details of the story, but also like, I have to know how this ends. That's ADHD is ADHD is ADHD. You're trying to tell me that that's not, so, all my teachers, even at like parent teacher conferences, they tell my parents all the time, we're so happy that she's reading. It's just so wonderful. Like, we wish we could get other students to read as much as she reads. However, she needs to do her times tables, all this other shit. So, but yeah, I've been pretty open about this in, some of our past episodes, but I was not actually diagnosed with ADHD until the last year or so. And, that was only after I'd been working with my primary care physician for about a year and a half at that point, because specifically in high functioning women, type A personalities, and self-aware women, ADHD is misdiagnosed or missed because they are struggling with depression and anxiety. So we worked for like a year and a half to combat depression and anxiety, which I still very much struggle with. And, once we got to a point where he was like, all right, well, I know how you function. I know what we have offered in forms of treatment of therapy. I know you've pursued in, forms of therapy. And I know we have worked together to pursue in forms of medication. Now I think we can actually ask the questionnaire and determine if you do or do not fit the diagnostic criteria for ADHD. And surprise, I did. So I also wonder how much of my academic career would have been easier to manage or
less stressful.
Less stressful. Absolutely. And, in high school and in undergrad, but specifically in grad school, I had struggles with stress so much. Matt, I had a whole summer of like weird
I'm going to
medical
stop you there
issues.
And list off. I have a list of what stress can induce, and that is insomnia, headaches, aches and pains, heart disease, low sex drive or sex drive in general, upset stomach, depression, high blood pressure, dizziness, constipation, irritability. So those are all things that it sounds like you were, kind of talking about just there. So, on the like tips of, the point you were making, those are all stress responses. And it's interesting to draw the parallel that, your misdiagnosis early on to your current diagnosis and how that stress level could be, like altered because somebody somewhere was like, hey, we learned more about how the brain works. And I think that's an aid to people now, and why being vocal about your experience is so important, because somebody may feel how you feel or how you felt and never think that what they have is ADHD. What they think they have is, I'm just stupid, or I just can't focus, or I'm a terrible wife because, and I don't agree with those things. I think that it's possible that while you may be forgetful, it may be because of chemical imbalances and things going on in your brain that you are not aware of because it's in your brain. So,
well, here's a fun thing too. My TikTok algorithm, once you start liking TikToks about ADHD, your For You page and the Chinese algorithms and whatever the fuck, we've talked about the CEO. Man, I'll still say it with my whole chest. Nobody wants a TikTok shop, but I will tell you, CEO sir, that I am thankful for some of the ADHD content creators that I have found. Just this past week, stress related, I had to explain to my husband that a like fun side effect or like thing that I specifically struggle with ADHD is time blindness. Once I pointed it out to him, he was like, oh, holy shit, this is something that I see in you all the time. On Saturday morning, we had a whole conversation about these are the things we want to accomplish around the house. This is what we want to do, this, that, whatever. And I said, okay, sure. And then put my head down and was drinking my Celsius. Just switched to those, by the way. 10 out of 10, love them. And was playing around on my phone. And he nudged me and was like, listen, like you just explained to me what time blindness is. If you don't know what it is, it means that you have zero concept of time passing. Most days at work, when I get buried in a different rabbit hole about, criminal investigation, I will put my head down, dig deep into that rabbit hole, and then I will look up and it's 3:30 out of nowhere. I have zero concept of time passing at all. So Saturday we were having the whole conversation. He nudged me and he said, listen, you just explained to me what time blindness is. If I just leave you here in the kitchen playing on your phone, you'll be here for another hour. We have things we need to do. And I was like, oh shit, so So it's been another thing too, where I'm learning about the diagnosis so much still myself over a year into having it, and feeling really thankful that I have a partner that wants to work with me and understand me better and is in a place where he is open to hearing me explain these things that he doesn't struggle with at all. He's just like, what the hell are you doing? Just like, why aren't you up at 5:30 in the morning, fucking bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, stomping around the house, making it smell like coffee, you know? So that has been a source of stress for me. But you're sitting here listing these physical symptoms of stress. Just act me next time. Like, I could make a whole dating or LinkedIn profile around every single fucking physical symptom that you just said. So much to the point where, as a ADHD career-driven mom of 2 under 3, I make a point that every other month I get a massage. 100% of the stress in my body I store in my upper back. Okay? I have a very sweet massage lady that I have been seeing for over 2 years now. She is straight out of North County, St. Louis. If you don't know, from St. Louis. She's seen some shit, okay? Her name is Karen, and Karen yells at me. She yelled at me at my December appointment, and she said, listen, girl, your massage goal, or your goal for our sessions together, is that they're not going to be as stressful for me or for you. And I say for me because typically with a full body massage, you spend 30 minutes on your back, 30 minutes on your front. You get all your muscles worked out, all your knots. Not this bitch, not me. 100% of that hour, now 90 minutes as I'm splurging a little bit, is spent on my stomach. Matt, I spend it on my stomach because 75 to 80% of that entire 90 minutes is spent working on all the knots in my upper back. That is 100% where I store all of the physical stress in my body. I don't know if you have something similar like that, Matt, but it's been very weird to transition into adulthood and also get to the point in aging where I literally can feel stress in my body. It was something that my dad warned me about in middle school. He was like, you're going to have a panic attack and a brain aneurysm by the time you're fucking 30, bitch. Like, you need to figure this shit out. All knots. All upper back is just knots. I don't know. Do you store stress in your body anywhere specifically that you can tell?
I'm a 35-year-old hockey and roller derby player, so even if I could say that it was so, I got so many like sports related like sorenesses that I don't know that it would be a thing. But also I did not take care of myself when I was younger doing stupid stuff. So I got knots on knots on knots because. But I do want to ask you, because you were just kind of talking about it and you were already kind of like tiptoeing around it, but what's the like the first thing your mind goes to in a stressful situation? Like when you are stressed, where does your mind go to first? Like what's that like knee-jerk response of?
When I'm faced in a stressful situation, my immediate reaction on both a physical, mental, emotional is just to, how do I fix this immediately? My standard go-to is fight instead of flight. I have spent so much in my, what I'm learning and what I have learned in the last couple of years of, cognitive behavioral therapy and treatment through medication is that so much of my life I have lived in survival mode where I'm just anticipating the next crisis coming because I've been blindsided by so many in my life that if I don't do that, I will have the carpet pulled out from under me. So I was thankful for this to be a topic of discussion for us because my normal is an elevated level of stress. It's been a fun thing to navigate adulthood with a husband who does not live like that and has not. I'm 100% trauma informed, not nearly as damaged by my trauma as I think I am, but still recognizing So my immediate thought and behavior pattern is to, how do I solve this so that it's no longer a feeling? What's the quickest way to a solution so that not only is it not a problem anymore, but I don't have to feel the feelings? To the point where my sister is 16 months younger than me, Matt. She is always been the far more responsible person than me. Okay. She's younger in age, but older in emotional intelligence. I was the stove toucher. It's been a point of contention in our adult relationship where she calls me to bitch about a situation or bitch about a problem that she faces. Immediately, chest to chest with whoever the fuck's pissing her off, want to go slash their tires, post their social security number on the dark web kind of thing. And she's like, listen, I know that you want to find a solution for this and you want to find the easy way out so that I come on the other side of this issue unscathed. I have a plan in mind to combat this. Sometimes I just want to call you and feel validated and heard. Sometimes I just want you to listen to me. And that's so physically uncomfortable. Again, Matt, because it's immediately like, okay, well, this is a problem. What's the easiest way for me to fix this? Because I'm naturally in a state of panic and stress. So we have far larger things to deal with than this, whatever current issue is facing, or whatever current issue we're facing. How do I fix this immediate issue so that I can keep my head down and be a bull in a fucking china shop, move forward, and charge forward to the next one? So, yeah, it's been something that I've had to learn, because when you are in a state of survival mode, it's really physically uncomfortable to listen to hear and not just listen to respond. So that's been something that I've been trying to work on last year.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it's nurture versus nature? Or because you said you had to learn how to not, do you think it's I guess, like I said, do you think it's nurture versus nature? Which one do you think it falls under?
Fuck. This is why Matt's always a great interviewer, because he asks the hard questions. I think specific to the relationship with my sister, it's nurture versus nature, because I know the dues that she's paid already. Like, she's been there side by side, chest to chest, shoulder to shoulder with me with all of the shitty things that have happened with me. Like, if anybody deserves a fucking break, it's my little sister. So when she calls me specifically, it's, nurture, because I want to make her life as easy as possible. I want to go out of my way to love on her through acts of service, to just fucking kick any obstacle that she's facing the fuck out of her way, because that's what she deserves. Why I say it depends, my specific response depends on the relationship, because I don't think I would say the same thing for my relationship with my husband. I grew up with two federal government employee parents. Mom was good cop, dad was bad cop. And it's been so fun to kind of fall into disciplinary relationships of tiny humans as parents with my husband, because I think, maybe not necessarily falling into traditional gender roles. He's good cop and I'm bad cop. Like our 2-year-old, everybody says, just wait till her favorite word's no. Well, folks, we're there.
Interesting.
So when she says no to him, it depends on the situation, but he's usually the nurture. And then I'll fucking say with my mom voice, my chest will be like, hey, hey. And she immediately fucking, so it's, I think it depends on the relationship again. It's just been a really interesting thing to try and navigate, while I'm still also learning so much about myself, because I didn't realize how much of my life I was living in survival mode and just in an elevated level of stress as is. So I have I've got a little heating pad for my neck, for my upper back. I've got, Epsom salt baths that I take to try to physically work out some of those knots. My biggest piece of advice to all of our listeners, Matt, for how to deal with your stress is to get medicated. Maybe for some people, they would see that as an easy button. But for my body, the natural neural pathways that are developed in my brain from being in a constant state of stress, I just recently, in the last month, got prescribed a new sleeping med that burns out of my system, keeps me in a lot of sleep where if my kids are crying in the middle of the night, I can hear them. I'm getting the best sleep of my life right now because I admitted to a qualified medical practitioner that I needed help and I needed help falling asleep. Get medicated, folks. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of great strength.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel more stressed at home or at work?
Oh, fuck me, dude.
I mean, you just explained both roles and how you have to, kind of fall into good cop, bad cop at home, but at work you could lose 3 hours of your day because you're so focused on the job. So, is that...
Yeah. So I have not talked too much in great detail about what I do professionally. What I will say is I'm currently working as a federal contractor. I help investigate violent gun crimes. That is stressful. It is not a normal thing to constantly read police reports about murders, homicides, aggravated assaults, shootings, firearms that are recovered during traffic stops. It's not a normal thing. What I will say is lately for me to be in an elevated level of stress, to be thinking in black and white thinking, and for it to be a place of comfort for me, because working in law enforcement is so black and white, stereotypically, I find it so much more stressful to be at home than to be at work. And I'm working out of an office that really deals with a lot of violent gun crime. Okay, y'all know I live near St. Louis. The office that I work out of covers East St. Louis. I see murders, homicides, shootings, violent street gangs, outlaw motorcycle gangs. I see drug trafficking organizations. I see machine guns, drum magazines, convicted felons released after only serving a fucking week in jail. Thank you, communist state of Illinois. That's stressful. All of those things are easier for me to manage sometimes than coming home to two tiny humans that just bully the shit out of me and my husband. Like weekends, I'm just sitting there being emotionally terrorized and bullied by these tiny humans. I love them. Motherhood has been a trip. I lost my mom when I was really young, so it's also been a source of stress for me, Matt, to figure out my role in motherhood when I have really, for the longest time, and still to this day, feel like I don't necessarily, like, maternal instincts don't come easy to me. I didn't like being pregnant. I don't know if Court did, but I did not, Matt. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's realistically, there's no answer to the question because it's your answer. There's no right or wrong. However, you so feel compelled. Like I said, I will say that a lot of people are more stressed at home because there's no direction there. There's no goal. There's no, like, I get X done, then I work on Y, then I work on, whatever that next thing is. And there's a routine built in of functionality where when you get home, it's chaos for chaos sake, where you don't really know what things need to be done. And the list of things that need to be done are like the dishes, the letting the dog out, you know, changing the trash,
The
all these little,
yeah.
all these little things that by themselves are one 15-minute to like hour long task, but because each one compounds on itself, and this is the only time you're getting to sit down and watch TV or read a book or put on a sleep mask or use your heating pad or whatever that thing may be, it tends to foster more stressful situations, too much downtime as far as like, oh, well, like we had snow days because it's been like crazy here in the Midwest, and the amount of people that were like freaking out being at home. And I just thought it was so interesting because uh, this is the first time in a really long time that I wasn't like itching to go back to work because I didn't have stress at home doing things and not doing things and learning to let go and learning to like, if I get these things done, cool. If I don't get these things done, also cool. But you know, staying just productive enough to feel accomplished, but not so productive enough that I'm burnt out. And that's I think the ultimate, I guess, test of what you do for a living versus are you living, if that makes sense.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, I know what ADHD rabbit hole I'm going to fucking ponder on for the rest of the evening. Thank you for that, Matt. But I did want to ask you, you know, we've had some off mic, off recording conversations about you making your career change in the last year or so. Your other job was very stressful, maybe some interpersonal like workplace conflict, and now you've switched to your new career that you have talked about earlier in the episode that we're sitting down to record now. How did that impact your stress level, and did you gain any insight about stress at home versus stress at work after that switch?
Honestly, not really. The thing that I think it's easier to be less stressed because I see how stressed people are, and they're stressed about, like, to me, silly things that don't have any bearing on anything. And we're dealing with tiny humans. So ultimately, like, at the end of the day, the goal is like, don't harm, maim, or kill them, and get them to accomplish the first one and some of the second one. It was a good, successful day. It doesn't have to be this, you know, this crazy thing. And at the end of the day, what stresses me out is people's inability to like cope, people's inability to handle a situation, people's inability to ask for help when they clearly need it. Like, not saying like, well, you know, you tripped up the stairs, so you need somebody to help you up the stairs. No, like where they are not good at creating a schedule, or they're not good at, you know, having a conversation that's hard to have with somebody, or they're not good with, you know, like in my particular situation, you know, not good with changing a diaper or something. So like all of those things you can ask for help with, and it doesn't make you any less than, but like you're shameful or you're stressed or it's piling up. And those things stress me out because it's like, look, man, like, I don't care. It ultimately does not, like, literally, I give zero fucks about almost anything. It just doesn't make a difference to me. Like, we tiptoe around politics here, and I was thinking about it because I really want to engage in that and those kinds of conversations, because it's something that you want to do, and I can tell that you're passionate about. But ultimately, like, what I came down to thinking about, especially thinking about this episode, was like, politics doesn't stress me out, and like the internet doesn't necessarily stress me out, because ultimately, like, I just don't fucking care. Like,
Yeah.
I care about the world, but I don't care. Like, if your views are this, cool, fine. You're not gonna change my views because my views aren't rooted in politics. My views are rooted in, I want to be a good fucking human being, no matter what that looks like. It doesn't matter what figurehead is on the ballot. It doesn't matter what, you know, logo is flying over said ballot. You know, like, I don't. It doesn't matter to me. So stressing myself out about those things just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't hold the same weight. So when it comes to like my job, to specifically answer your question, like I don't think it impacted my stress level one way or the other. Getting out of my old job, that impacted my stress level simply because I was looking at a bunch of guys who respected me, and I was having to enforce rules I did not believe in, and that takes a piece of you every single time. And
Yep.
when you earn the respect of people, and some of that respect was hard fought, when you earn that respect and now you're enforcing rules you yourself don't believe in, you have to look at yourself in the mirror, and that's just not a good situation to be in for anybody. And then you couple in all the other stupid interpersonal bullshit and things that seem like, you know, I don't like to call things racism unless I have like blatant proof that it's racism, but I was starting to run out of fucking examples of what it could be besides racism. So like,
Yeah,
pushing
trust
all that
me.
shit, pushing all that shit out of the way was like, yeah, no, that made an improvement. But ultimately realizing at the end of the day, like, what I care about is my family and being able to spend time with them. I value that, and being able to express myself in a way that I don't like. I'm not like holding anything back or watering myself down or portraying myself in some other thing. And I got a tattoo for that. Like that is that, you know, message, because those things, holding myself back, downplaying myself, or, you know, not feeling a certain way, that stresses me out more than anything else. So again, like the job switch, I go there because I get paid. If I wasn't getting paid, I wouldn't go there. So it's easy to like disassociate myself from that thing. If I was in a job like yours or a career like yours, maybe I would have a little bit more stake in it and it would matter a little bit more to me. But as I am not, if again, like I said, if I wasn't getting paid, I wouldn't I wouldn't show up here.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way it goes.
I just never wanted to be a person. I've always had the mentality where if I'm spending so much time, 40 plus hours a week, doing this gig, I don't want it to mean nothing. I am a Gemini. I am a type A personality. I'm an Enneagram 8. I don't know actually what your Enneagram is. Please do a quiz and let me know. My personality type, there are 9 different Enneagrams. I am an Enneagram 8. It is stereotypically referred to as the challenger. Incompetency, injustice really calls me to action. I do not want to settle for a world where convicted felons who were arrested with machine guns and post rap videos about how they've killed all these other people and they're going to continue to kill people. I don't find that to be acceptable in modern society. My mentality has always been, you know, again, if I'm going to invest so much time into this career, or I'm going to invest and throw myself, because I'm a very passionate person. You cannot really necessarily compartmentalize
Hold on, before
passion.
you continue with that, do you equate who you are to your career, or who you are to who you are outside of those 40 hours?
Very interesting question, because this has also been something that I've been confronted with from my therapy session last week. It is both. To the point where I had therapy sessions when I found out I was pregnant. My therapist at the time had done her PhD dissertation and her study on identity shifts in special operators in the military. From when they are going from an elevated sense of self and a mission-driven purpose to transitioning into civilian life. How that transition was for their stress level, their personality, their mental illness, all those things. So she really helped me when I started to struggle with the exact concept that you're asking me about. She said, listen, your analyst, your federal contractor, your professional, your work bubble needs to shrink a little bit so that your wife and your mother bubble, your different parts of your identity can grow a little bit. I feel like a black sheep because I don't know where the line is drawn to where I am actually officially considered a workaholic, gender norms. I find just as much controversial statement incoming. Go ahead and clutch your pearls now. I find just as much personal fulfillment and sense of duty and joy out of what I accomplish at my job. I feel the same amount of validation and accomplishment and satisfaction, 50% at my job, 50% in motherhood. I have had many creative discussions with other older women, stereotypically, who are like, career has to take the back burner. Career has to take the back seat now. Those kids are everything. Those kids are your life. Your house is your life. Your husband's your life. Where I always rebelliously, Enneagram 8, type A driven personality, stereotypically referred to as the challenger, I dug my heels in that. I'm like, listen, yeah, I hatched a human. I sacrificed my body so that my husband could have offspring. I love my kids, but I did not stop being career-driven Kaitlin just because I gave birth to another human. I'm still me. And I have a teammate. I have an equal partner. So I always laugh my ass off when I'm out in the wild with no kids and somebody asks me, hey, where are the kids? They're at home with their equally capable fucking dad. My teammate, who is not a babysitter, he's their father and my teammate. So I feel like an odd duck for having that specific mentality because so many people with good intentions are like, listen, you can win all the awards in your career as much as you want to. You will never get back these years with your kids. You will never get back these, your kids will never be this age again, which I get and I understand. I think a lot of this will shift. Maybe my perspective on this will shift. We can revisit this in a year when my oldest kid is in preschool or maybe kindergarten. But I don't find many other women professionally that relate to this type of thinking. It absolutely adds to my stress.
Yeah. It sounds like it would. I just want to be clear. We are of two different tracks of thought on what that is. And I asked that question about the, which side does that fall on? Because for me, my job, my career, my whatever is a necessity, not the need or the want.
Yeah.
It's the need and the want is I need to be a good human before everything else. So nothing else matters but being a good human. So my career, it's what has allowed me to be so successful in every job I've ever held and allowed people to be like, damn, you're good at 90% of the things that I've done, because what comes first is my integrity to self, not my integrity to this job. I will never compromise my integrity to myself for anyone or anything, because none of the rest of that matters if I don't hold true to what I believe in my core. And when it comes to stress, that's what gives me stress, is when I have to start edging up against that on, do I really stand behind this thing, or is this something that I don't? And that's a problem for me, where you find a situation where you're like, man, this sucks. I don't like that. I don't like this. Those are stressful situations to me, because I have to decide, is this still worth it? I have to start weighing the balances. And I think that's, again, an interesting conversation just in general, because I completely understand what you're saying. And I completely agree that, like, you are in a situation where you have a teammate where you, I mean, me and Courtney have this conversation all the time where you don't get to like it, I don't anybody that is one spouse goes to work and the other can stay home. I applaud you finding a career and a job to afford that shit because it is not possible where I am at. So
Matt, we're in late stage capitalism as is. All right. Yeah, maybe that's a whole other theme for a future fucking episode, but late stage capitalism is a thing. It is where we are at. And I just I chose the career that I chose maybe initially as a trauma response. My dad was a cop. He was a federal investigator. He was in the Army, and I wanted him to know without a question that he had done a great job of raising me and my younger sister by himself. So I chose maybe initially law enforcement as a trauma response, which is very difficult for me to reconcile. It just so happens that out of that, I have a great passion about it because it's like literally like my investigative work could help seek justice for the mom of the 4-year-old who caught a stray round in East St. Louis from a dumb fuck who tried to murder somebody with a fully automatic weapon over an Instagram story beef. I have a very stressful job. I suck at compartmentalizing still to this day, but podcasting with you has been a really helpful creative outlet. Starting my own podcast has been a really helpful creative outlet. Making sure that I am making personal choices to be emotionally, physically present with my kids while I'm home on the weekends, having dates with my husband. You earlier this episode, you said something about, going through the motions versus actually living life. I'm like, well, shit, that hit me right in the fucking heart. I don't know if you and Court feel the same way, but it's so easy to fall into a pattern of repetition and normalcy and get lost in the sauce. But I'm just holding out that maybe it gets easier.
We're going to have an episode about that because that's one of those things that like right now I'm struggling with where I actually don't do that. And I don't do it so much to the point where it actually aggravates me when other people fall into that repetition because
sorry to aggravate you, Matt. Here I am.
It's a choice. And it becomes like, why is that the choice that you make and decoding your brain? And like I said, I've had all these interviews and these conversations with people about that thing because it's so interesting to me because at some point in time you choose to say no more. I will, I'm going to fold that laundry. I'm going to do those dishes. I'm going to go for those walks. I'm going to, whatever it is, you make the conscious choice to do it. And then you either make the conscious choice to not do it. Oh, I'll do it again. I'll tomorrow or whatever. And you fall into that thing because you choose to, and then you create all the reasons to justify why that wasn't a choice. And it blows my mind because I've just never in my entire life been that way, which is why I'm always like, I'm an alien. I'm not like people. I'm not a normal person. And I grew up in such a weird way that it not only did it like nurture stuff out of me, but also my nature was just to never be that way. So it's so interesting to me because I cannot wrap my brain around that style of thinking, specifically because I just never was able to. Like, I want to go do this thing, so I'm gonna go do this thing. Like, I wanted to start a podcast.
Teach me your ways,
I wish I could figure it out, which is why I love having these conversations because I don't know. It's probably the one thing that frustrates me more than anything else frustrates me because I just genuinely have no fucking clue why that is a thing. Like I asked Courtney a random thing and she's like, oh, well, I need to do this. And I was like, didn't you need to do that like 3 weeks ago? And she's like, yeah. And it's
you might have to just interview my husband, sitting here having these fucking conversations. God damn it.
it's just so funny because I don't, like I said, I grew up in a way where we struggled. I didn't have, we would go extended periods without like utilities. We would go extended periods without like, I don't want to say like food because we had food, but it was like bare minimum food. We went extended
Yeah.
periods without like, all sorts of things. And like, so getting attached to things, getting attached to the way, like just assumptions that most people just go through life with, didn't have. And then on top of that, it was always a situation of like, when you're faced with the problem, you go straight to solution. You don't go to like fix it. You go straight to, you're not going to panic. You're going to think logically about this thing. And if you can't come up with a logical way to get around it, to fix it, to deal with it, then you've already failed. If you continue to drive towards a solution, you can't fail because you're always moving towards a solution. You can panic about it once you've figured out that solution. And it's not like you mentioned fixing things in your sister, and it's not that. It's more of I have this problem. I could think about it for 2 days. I could think about it for a week. I don't have to immediately respond to it. I just can't panic about it. I have to settle in and use my logical brain to make a thing. And that was nurture. That wasn't nature. So it's just, like I said, it's a wild thing to me because my brain just does not work that way. And
it's so interesting to me, Matt, how we can agree on so many fucking things. And then when we're having conversations like this, like our foundational assumptions in problem solving are so different. We're over a year into recording episodes together. And I just listened to you say all that. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? He could be talking fucking Russian right now. I'm like, to have a basis of decision making and your natural state of calm be based in nurture, dude.
Well, and that's the thing, is that's why it's always so wild to me to hear you talk, and why I don't disagree with you, because it's why, like I said, I just genuinely don't care to disagree, because you're not going to change the way that my brain works. I'm not going to change the way your brain works. You're informed about the things that you're informed about. I'm informed about the things that I'm informed about, and we come to the solutions that we come to the resolutions that we come to. That's just what it is. So I always think that the things that you say, while I may not agree, or I may not I may not use that same formula to come to a decision, your decision seems sound enough that it doesn't bother me. I know that that's not for me, or that's not how I would necessarily handle it or deal with it. It's just a different way of whatever. So we have these conversations, and I have new information to throw into the difference engine that is my brain, that next time I'm faced with a situation, something you said will pop in my brain and be like, hey, take into consideration this person may have that same opinion, or this situation may have that same context to it, so handle it accordingly. And now I'm more informed to handle a situation with even greater knowledge towards, and that's always the way my brain has worked since I was, ask my mom, my aunts, they've always been like, I don't know why you were that way, but you were always that way as far back as they can remember. So I wish I could figure it out. I wish I could. Also, we're coming in at over an hour, and I was trying to keep this one shorter, but it is what it is. So
rabbit holes, dude.
Do you have? Well, it's not even a rabbit hole. It's just we were talking about stress and the way that stress operates, and the stress in itself is kind of a rabbit hole, and that's why stress does what it does.
I genuinely feel like, Matt, though, we might need to have a part 2 to this, because we didn't even talk about anything about like coping strategies other than
I don't give a
get
fuck
medicated.
About coping strategy. Like, you could have you wanted to bring up coping strategies, and that's cool. My coping strategies don't pertain. I just went through the whole list of why my coping strategies would never work for another human being.
Oh my God,
you
Matt.
might have them. I don't. It doesn't. Anything that I think about to help with stress is not going to help anybody else. It's just the way that it goes, unfortunately. So we could have a follow-up on our next recording, and I'll give you like the first 15 minutes to just like hammer all your points home, or we can do a staying late and just like record it later and drop it at the same time as this episode, where you talk about your best ways to cope with stress.
To our Homes Room listeners, this is a perfect example about how Matt and I are so different when we are so similar at the same fucking time. I'm gonna come at you with a whole fucking 1 to 10 bullet point fucking list of here are some supplements you could take to chill the fuck out. Here are some ways you can love on yourself and self-care and manage your stress, whatever. And Matt's just gonna be like, I don't know, just don't let it stress you out.
No, I mean, let it stress you out. The thing is that like when you try and fight stress, that's what makes stress worse. So instead of fighting stress, think about why you're stressed. Where does that stress come from? So it's not going to help anybody. I know that's how I handle stress is what's
Man, I'm feeling stressed.
See, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Do you have a That's What She Said this week?
I do. Let me just keep it short here quick. I want to revisit the conversation that I had about seeking validation in other ways other than a mother. I had a very interesting relationship with church and organized religion all throughout high school, preteen, formative young years. I was seeking a mother in things that were not my mother because she was no longer there to give me that type of nurturing. And in that, I had it beaten into my head that these are the roles of the woman. She needs to submit. She needs to, this, that. She cannot pursue a relationship with a Catholic man. Plot twist, he's now my husband we've been together over 10 years. He's my husband, and I hatched 2 of his offspring, the only offspring that I'm aware of. So whatever. I had these very traditional gender roles rammed down my throat and immediately dug my heels in. I like to think, I'm a rebellious personality. If I don't have buy-in on an idea or an order, I will just tell you, fuck off. No, I don't want to do it. But I did some soul searching, and part of those formative convictions that I made in my preteen years about the role of a woman and traditional gender norms and the role of a housewife and submitting to the man and, growing up in the digital age and the conversations that I was having in college. I made the conviction early on that I did not want to lose my sense of self and my personal identity just because I gave birth to a human.
Yeah.
I am Kaitlin. I am her. I didn't stop being strong, opinionated Kaitlin. I don't know if y'all know this about me. I'm a strong, opinionated fucking woman, but here I am. I didn't stop being me because I gave birth to a human. That was still a wonderful thing. It's a magical process. I did not have a maternal bone in my body. It took me several months after my daughter was born to even have an emotional attachment to her. It is what it is. But I want to encourage any woman out there, any person out there that's struggling with their sense of self or their sense of identity. You are who you are. You have survived all of the shittiest things. You're put through obstacles and issues and struggles of trying to figure out your sense of self through new patterns of issues and, losing your sense of normal, losing your normal definition of life. That's a really awful thing for anybody to combat. You are the master of your own ship. You are the person who is in charge of figuring out who you are as a person. The world can try to strip you of the things that you create your own personal identity out of. But at the end of the day, it is you are who you are, and you can tell everybody, fuck you. Yeah, I'm a mom of 2 tiny humans. I still have a very fulfilling career that I go at 100%, and I go at motherhood 100% too. Maybe that will catch up with me. Very fitting to have stress be the topic of conversation tonight because it is a very stressful situation. But, if it feels weird, doesn't mean it's wrong. Do you, and I will be your biggest fucking cheerleader at the end of the day. Did my mic just pick up my neck cracking when I just went?
That time it did. That one might be in there. The noise cancellation.
I'm so sorry.
The removed background noise might cut that out of the recording, but live I definitely heard it, and that was hilarious.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
That's
what she said, Matt.
That's what she said. And a neck crack on the top. Thank you for listening. Maybe you'll hear the list that Kaitlin was talking about. Maybe you won't. I have no idea. We'll see what happens. But I want to thank you for listening and putting up with us if you got to this point in the episode, because it got pretty interesting there at the tail end. So again, appreciate it. I do have to say one thing, and I'm again apologetic, and this is why I was trying to keep it short. But if you're going to leave a review, make sure you send us a screenshot of you giving us the review so you can get a sticker. We're sitting at 13 5-star reviews on Spotify, which is awesome. I can't see who reviews those because they're anonymous. It's just the star rating. You can't like go in and see that. So thank you for you 13 people that have done that. Continue to give us reviews. We love those. Apple, if you listen on Apple, give us the reviews. I think there's like maybe still 7, and that was like August when we got our last one last year. So yeah, let's try and drive some reviews, people. Go to Apple Podcasts, give us some stars, write a little thing. If you don't want to write a little thing, send an emoji with some sunglasses and we're good. Or send a little like Jamba fingers, like whatever you got to do. We need the reviews because that's going to help people find us and also let people know that what we're saying may help somebody or may entertain somebody. Yeah. So there's that. Also check out the DPPP. Our lovely co-host is the host over there doing interviews and such. And yeah, hopefully you're enjoying season 2 thus far. Bonus surprise, Kaitlin. This is why I wanted to wrap this up. It's now an hour and 11 minutes, but I'm starting to put stuff on the YouTube channel in hopes that season 2 we will start releasing video podcasts because you've pushed for it. I have the ability to do it. I don't necessarily want to do it because I don't want to have to do video editing if we ever have issues or mistakes or things like that. So it might not be every episode. It might just be the me and Kaitlin episodes. It might just be the me and like a guest or us in interviews because it just kind of depends on what you guys do. So if you haven't already, go follow the YouTube. It'll be linked in the show notes. It'll be linked everywhere. But it's, just like everything, Homes Room Pod. Email us if you got something. Again, homesroompod@gmail. The social media for the podcast is mhomeswriter on both Facebook and Instagram. So let us know. Give us feedback. I've been putting up polls and people have had some fun with the polls. I just did one about when are you too comfortable and with a partner or in a relationship, and it was basically the question was asking, do you poop in front of your partner? And I thought it was hilarious, and me and Courtney had a very fun time answering that question. So get in on the conversation, engage both on Kaitlin's solo podcast and this podcast. Other than that, you have a great day. Thank you for rocking with us for this. We love
you.
Bye.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.